just like to welcome you all here today. We, as well as many other Asian Pacific American leaders, are solidly behind Jerry Brown for governor. I'm a CPA, and people always ask me, why can't government run like business? Well, I tell them, as companies are laying off people, they are outsourcing, downsizing, who do you think takes care of all the people? And it is the government. The government does what business does not want to do. And we need an experienced leader who understands how to run government and make sure it runs. And that is Jerry Brown. He is the most qualified and the most experienced candidate in this race. He has served on the Community College Board, Secretary of State, Governor twice, Mayor twice. He's been our Attorney General protecting us, protecting the consumers here in the state. And we need a leader who gets it, who is qualified, who knows how to who knows how to get us out of this fiscal crisis that we're in, and that is Jerry Brown. And next speaker up will be Senator Leland Yee.
It was extremely difficult for me growing up here in San Francisco. But Jerry Brown really changed the face of our judiciary when he was governor. When all of us go before court, you at least want to have individuals who understands your community, who understands your background, and then basically reflect a lot better in terms of the final decision that a judge may make. Right now in the state of California, we are struggling with many individuals who don't speak English. That's not their primary language. And how do you get justice? How do you get fairness when you have a court system that clearly is not reflective and understanding of your language and your culture? I know that Jerry Brown is going to take care of that. He's taken care of that in the past. Locally, if you recall, many years ago, Jerry Brown appointed the very first Chinese American to the Superior Court. That was Lillian Singh, Filipino, Ron Kittichai. And so he had a record of accomplishments and sensitivity and understanding of our particular community. And then as someone who's very passionate about education, when many of our children were closed out at the UC level, and when many of our youngsters wanted to get in and had a hard time getting in, what did Jerry Brown do? He appointed the very first Asian American, Japanese American, Yuri Wada. Because of that appointment, it changed the face of the border regions. It changed the complexion of how we admit youngsters. It changed the way in which UC was seen within our community. That is the record of accomplishment of Jerry Brown. That's the demonstrated sensitivity and understanding of our community in this critical time when we are facing massive budget cuts, and you have a governor who just clearly does not understand exactly what the diversity of this state means. Jerry Brown is going to be a refreshing breath of fresh air for all of us. He is going to be extremely understanding and sensitive. And over the last 8 years of darkness, finally, we're going to get some light, we're going to get some fresh air, and it's going to be Jerry Brown. And with that, I want to introduce my friend, my colleague, Mike Honda. Some people say that I'm the old man in this crowd. Well, no, Mike Honda. And for us Asians, that is a term of endearment. He gave me my start, guided me. Sometimes I listened, sometimes I didn't. Maybe if I listen, I'd do a lot better. But Mike Honda is one of the leaders in our community, a very distinguished leader in that. With that, Mike, come on up.
Thanks, Leland. I am older than you. Let me first start out by thanking the media for being here. It's important that we have that outreach to the community, to our entire community, but it's also important that the ethnic media also picks up this kind of activity so that we all know and understand who Jerry Brown is, what he's done for this state and for our communities. Jerry Brown's been around for a while. The Brown name has been around for a while either. It's also Pat Brown had created for the state of California the infrastructure of California that allowed people to move around, the infrastructure that allowed people to go to school, and the infrastructure so that people will have water from Northern California to Southern California. These kinds of infrastructures are very important for the state of California, and it allowed us to grow. Jerry Brown, when he became governor, he utilized it and he understood how to use the infrastructure so that people can benefit from it. And he put people into the infrastructure to make it work. You see a lot of folks up here, Asian Americans. You know, prior to Jerry Brown, the appointments of Asian Americans was an exception. He made it a rule. Today we have not only judges, we have folks who are political leaders in the state of California and who go to the halls of Congress. A lot of it's because he paid attention to people who needed to be part of this government, to be part of the infrastructure of the state of California. And so, you know, a lot of names were mentioned, and a lot more names can be mentioned. But the fact is, we want our community to understand that without his presence in Sacramento, a lot of these things would not have happened. So we have to remember these kinds of things. There's one other thing I want folks to understand. When you're in Sacramento, you can't be a yes person. You have to be able to force people to debate and argue for the benefit of more information, you know, with the best kind of policy for our people. And he can do that. And you will hear from him later, and you can hear the power and the conviction that he has and the confidence that he has to be able to lead the state out of the morass that we find ourselves today. His father helped build this place. He helped structure and put people in place. And ever since then, the state of California has been falling apart. People are fighting with each other because they want more space in our university campuses. The problem is that we've been building more prisons than universities. He can just reverse that. And it's a travesty when the penal institutions take the third grade test scores and predict how many prisons they need rather than how many schools they need. So with Brown in charge, I know that he's going to put people first. When he was governor, he didn't care about limousines and cars. He didn't care about the mansions. He just cared about doing a good job. And so today we have a wonderful opportunity to contrast and compare the other person and him. And when you look at that and you look at the choice is very easy. So we want our community out there to understand, to look at the choices and then decide. And the decision will be very clear. I want him as our governor because of my grandchildren and their children, because it's going to be that long before the kind of impact that he needs to make, the changes that he has to provide, and the leadership he has to provide in the state of California is going to take that long to make those changes. So I'm very proud to be here and endorse and present Jerry Brown as our next governor of the state of California.
Well, thank you very much for all of you being here, standing behind me as we come to the closing 2 weeks of the campaign. I especially like being here in San Francisco, where I grew up. My grandmother, my father's mother, lived not too far away at Grove and Lyon. And as we're thinking of Asian Pacific Islanders and the leaders of this very diverse and broad community, I think of my father's first appointment of, I think the first Chinese American in California, that was Jack Chow, and he was a deputy district attorney. So my roots go way back in this city, and also my understanding of the political and civic culture that we live in. And it is quite challenging. There's discontent about Congress, there's discontent about Sacramento and public officials, and so I don't take lightly the path that I've embarked upon. And I really appreciate this support from so many leaders of the Asian Pacific community. This is a powerful force in business, in science, in the university, in our community. And I see the job of governor as bringing people together. And I know we're polarized, and as I look at the surveys, I see a real cleavage The Democrats have one view of the world, the Republicans have the other, and then we're broken up into various ethnic identities as well. So while respecting all these differences, my goal is to forge a common purpose for California, making the tough decisions, living within our means, but also getting the people of this state to understand what it is, their university and their government, their firefighters and their environmental leaders, what is it we have to do, what funds it takes to do it, and try to reconcile these things as best we can. And I'm confident that after these years of what I call breakdown, that we're ready for a breakthrough. And I say that with full knowledge of how difficult the political process is. But I've thought about it a lot. I'm running for this office because I think I can make a difference. I understand it. And this time, I'm really going to engage the diverse communities, the diverse members of the legislature, and get people on board by listening, by respecting, and by moving forward to get together to the degree that's possible. And I think it's possible to a much greater degree than we've seen in the last